Not sure how to respond when employees bring up concerns about race, gender, or religion or other identities. As leaders, it's easy to feel at a loss when these deep, complex issues arise. The question is, how can you move beyond just listening to create real, meaningful, and impactful change? And after 20 years of navigating these conversations, here's what I've learned about doing it right. In today's video, I'll take you through 3 essential steps for addressing identity-based concerns in the workplace. And if you're ready to take on this challenge and build a more inclusive environment, keep watching. Hi, I'm Karanta Ziegler, and owner of Kalu Consulting, and I work with you to improve your employee experience by integrating diversity, equity, and inclusion, creating workplace cultures where leaders are decisive, teams thrive, and employees are satisfied with their job. I'll never forget sitting in one of my MBA classrooms, and on the screen was this phrase: what is perceived as real is real in its consequences. You see, I didn't always understand it at first, but now what I know is that whatever perception someone holds, it feels true to them. And this will remain their truth. And the reason is because they've lived through that experience. It becomes a part of their story, whether it's good or bad. It has happened, and it is a fact of their life. And that's what makes it a truth. So, step one, listening to understand, is the first step to addressing the employee's concerns and to create a space where they can share fully, openly, and authentically. So, listen, believe the employee. There is no harm in you believing the employee. In fact, when you lead with this mindset, it's actually going to help you get to the facts. You're going to listen differently, you're going to ask better questions, and you're going to create space for an open dialogue. And in employee conversations that are focused on identity, trust me, half the battle is won by simply making the employee feel heard and allowing them to share their story. So when an employee brings you an identity-based concern, the goal should be to just listen. Don't immediately dismiss their concern. Don't try to rationalize anyone's behavior, defend a position, or deny any perspective, including the employees. Just listen. The thing is, discrimination, it is subtle. And unless you have lived the experience of your employee, which you have not, something has happened in some shape or form. And your job is to uncover the facts. That is like what happened, who was involved, how they felt, what they thought. You want to figure out what happened first, what happened second, and what happened last. You are on a fact-finding mission. A simple question that you can ask is, can you tell me more about how this experience has impacted you? So while listening, make sure you ask follow-up questions. And also keep in mind that in your effort to gather facts and understand the situation, when you are asking additional questions, sometimes this makes the employee feel as if they need to justify or defend their experience. And you want to address this nuance. You can say something like this to the employee: I don't want you to feel like you have to defend yourself or prove anything to me. My goal here is to simply understand your experience so that we can address it in the best possible way. This is not about questioning you, but it's about making sure that I'm able to see everything clearly. So may I ask you a few additional questions to understand all the details? When you ask these questions, make sure that you stay objective. It's essential that you approach the situation without letting your personal biases or your past experiences interfere. Solving employees' concerns, whether they're identity-based or not, it requires that you understand the full picture. The thing is, the employee has trusted you with the problem, and to address it effectively, you're going to need to gather as much information as possible, and this requires that you listen first to understand. And while listening will help you understand, the next step is to identify what is the underlying issue. You want to move from listening to action. And this means taking steps that address what's actually causing the concern. And this is where real change happens. So let's unpack the next 2 steps of this problem-solving process. So step 2 is getting to the root of the issue. So here's a common workplace concern: miscommunication. So a director fails to share critical project updates with the marginalized employee, whether this is by accident or design. What seems like an isolated incident is compounded. For identity based concerns, actions like a failure to communicate or a slight remark, they aren't just rooted in the workplace. These echo long standing patterns of exclusion, discrimination, and marginalization that is present in society at large. A powerful parallel can be drawn from instances of voter suppression, where communities of colors are given incorrect polling information during elections. Now, this isn't just a logistical error, it's actually a form of intentional miscommunication that's designed to exclude and disenfranchise. Similarly, in the workplace, consistent miscommunication, it can be used to intentionally exclude marginalized individuals from fully participating in their roles. The thing is, the employee is asking you to recognize that workplace issues exist within a macro context, that the workplace cannot be separated from larger societal issues. So instead of feeling overwhelmed by external factors, I like to encourage the leaders that I coach to acknowledge societal challenges that employees face while also focusing on problem solving efforts on what can be changed within the organization. While you may not control what happens outside of work, you do have a responsibility to ensure that the workplace fosters inclusion and well being. Recognize the broader impact of an employee's life experiences and address workplace issues accordingly. It's about creating a space where employees feel that their full experience is recognized. So ground your solutions in organizational goals like employee engagement, retention, or team cohesion. This way you can address larger concerns in ways that directly benefit the workplace. Let me give you an example. If an employee feels excluded in team meetings, connect this concern to an organizational goal of fostering collaboration. By framing the concern this way, you're communicating that the issue isn't just personal, but it's actually about team dynamics. This also ensures that the issue is taken seriously and it prevents it from being dismissed as an individual grievance. The key takeaway is that discrimination outside the office, it don't just stay outside, it affects how employees feel within the workplace. Step 3, creating an actionable plan. You've asked questions, gathered the facts, you've acknowledged the societal challenges that employees face, and you've connected identity based concerns to a workplace issue. So, what do you do next? You develop an action plan that effectively acknowledges what the employee is experiencing and it leads to concrete action. So, here's an example of how an employee and a senior leader can work together to create change. As a Black woman, whew, I can recall a meeting where all white women in a conference room that had low lighting, little space, and it had a giant conference table to which created an adversarial environment. You want to talk about feeling marginalized and triggered? This was not an ideal environment for a meeting, especially for me as a sole Black woman. So I shared my concern with the executive director who was responsible for the meeting. And I proposed that we move the meeting to a different location, perhaps with better lighting and also a different arrangement of chairs. And luckily for me, the executive director acted on this advice and we moved to a new conference room. The solution was grounded in what I needed as a Black woman in a room full of white women. In fact, though, a few white women mentioned how they felt more comfortable in the new space as well. So, what was rooted in an identity based concern, it resulted in a change that helped address team cohesion. To start the process of an action plan, you can lead by saying something like this. I understand that societal issues like discrimination, they impact you deeply. And while I can't control everything that happens outside of work, I do want to make sure that I'm creating a supportive and inclusive environment here. So I'd like for us to work together to identify changes we can make within our team to help address these challenges. So can we work together on this? I'd like to hear from you on what you think is important. So communicate with the employee and let them know that while you could attempt to solve the problem on your own, you might miss key insights or you might make assumptions that lead to inadequate solutions. And involving the employee doesn't mean you're asking them to carry the burden of labor alone, but rather it's about making sure that you work together to find a solution that is effective. By having this conversation up front and you frame it as a partnership, you're making sure that the employee feels heard, and you also ensure that the solution is grounded in their experience. And this is how you balance doing the work as a leader while making space for an employee's contributions. To effectively respond to identity based concerns, Remember these three steps, and that is listen to understand, get to the root of the issue, and work with the employee to create actionable solutions. The goal is to work together and for you as a leader to take responsibility and action. And if these steps were helpful and you're looking for more diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies, make sure to subscribe my channel and click the bell in the corner for notifications, like this video with a thumbs up, and share with a friend. For inclusive insight tips and resources, join my email list. You just copy and paste the link in the description box below to sign up. And remember, when it comes to identity-based concerns, you matter.